In my last video, I developed these. These are my 3D printed, wireless, motion activated repulsors. And as you can see, they work just like Tony Stark's, but they're still props. But I am working to make this the most realistic version of Tony Stark's suit from a software perspective. So what is the next step in this process? First of all, in this video, I've got something I'm extremely excited about. The sponsor of this video, PCBWay, reached out to me and wanted to contribute to this project in a physical way. So I don't have any PCBs that I need to manufacture right now, so I took a look at the other services that they offered on their site, and this one jumped out at me. This, my friends, is an all-metal 3D printed repulsor, printed in aluminum, and it is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to tell you more about this in a few minutes, but the other part I'm going to actually be doing in this video is adding the monitoring of these to my heads-up display. So you've thought I've got some cool features in that heads-up display. This is going to take it to the next level. So this adds complete monitoring to the helmet of any of my armor components that I want to add. It monitors both temperature and voltage of these devices so that I can tell if my batteries are dying, if they're overheating, if there's any problem with it. And it also adds the full communication suite to these repulsors so that once I get done adding the next feature, audio, that these will actually be able to produce audio from my suit. So I'm super thrilled to get into this video. Let's get started. Let's see what's in the box. All right, I'm super excited. All right, let's see what's in here. There's a small part in here. I get a new PCBWay pin. Small part in here. Oh, stickers. We got stickers. Those are super important, especially the clear ones. All right, so that's it. All right, so in the attempt to continue to push forward, making Iron Man more real, 3D printed a repulsor for me. And not just any repulsor, but this thing's metal. It is metal 3D printed, and it is absolutely gorgeous. That one, not that it really matters. It is absolutely the same, but it is 3D printed out of aluminum. And it's got a little bit of heft to it, obviously, because it's solid. Listen to that. Isn't that just the gorgeous sound of threads? So this was threaded, and you can see on this piece in particular, they have had to finish it in order to get those threads just right. The rest of this, you'll see, is unfinished. It's still really, really smooth, but it's not like aluminum smooth. So there's some polishing that I can do here to clean this up, or I can leave it raw if I choose to. It's metal. You hear that? You hear that? It's metal. It's aluminum. It's solid. I mean, there's no doubt this is cooler. Again, thanks PCBWay for sending these over. Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. I found it. It's included. Tiny little 3D printed piece of metal, and the fact that they were able to 3D print that. Look at that. Oh, I can't wait to get this together. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get this assembled. Like I said, go through everything with them, see if I can get the other one done. Again, these are aluminum 3D printed parts using exactly the same model that I produced these out of. And they're identical in terms of the specs. I've actually already played with them a little bit, and everything is just printed perfectly to spec. It's amazing what they were able to do with these. You can see inside of here, I have the full details in order to install the electronics in here. All of my holes are threaded to my specifications. These are all things that I could do on the PCBWay website, and it just was super easy to take these plastic parts and send them to them, work with the engineers that are on that site to give them exactly the information they needed to produce these. I've got thin walls in here. Like I said, I've got 2mm threads on here, and they just turned out absolutely fantastic. As I mentioned, some of the parts are actually machined so that the threads go on beautifully. And this is the left-hand one. Now, if you remember me talking about it in the last video, I mentioned that unfortunately both of these were just mirrored. And that meant that the threads on one of them were backwards to the other, which is not ideal. So what I did when I heard that they could do this for me, I quickly remodeled my left repulsor and threw it onto an FDM printer so that I could test the model. That's what I got right here. Once I verified that this FDM model worked exactly like it was supposed to, I simply submitted the left hand, and now I have both of them, and they just look absolutely fantastic. They did a great job on the finish of both of these. Now, you may notice that these come with a matte finish. This is the way that they look after they have been sandblasted and cleaned up from the manufacturer. But if you've seen the movie shots, I'll show them to you right here. The movie shots have these as what looks like brushed aluminum parts. I'm sure Tony didn't even 3D print them. He probably had the parts and manufacture them, probably with CNC or something. But 3D printing worked a lot better for me because I did have the 3D model. So what I need to do now is I need to take these 3D printed parts and I need to finish them up. So I've bought me a new grinder. I picked up some bits for my rotary tool, and I'm basically going to have at these and actually start grinding these down just a little bit to make them shiny. Then I'm going to do my best to come up with a method to make them look like brushed aluminum, and then I will have my props and I'll be ready to install the electronics in these and they will be good to go. So we're going to do that, and then when we're all done with this, I will show you the new heads-up display elements and you can see what I've added to really make this feel like your Iron Man. So let's get over to the grinder and get going on these. So here I'm at my bench grinder, and I've replaced the two wheels that it came with a metal brush wheel, which is really good at some coarse grinding and polishing. And then I've got a polishing wheel over here, which I'm hoping I can use to really give it a nice, you know, brushed, polished finish. Just got these two on here. I'm going to start on this side with the wheel. That's what's going to take this dull 3D printed, probably a sandblasted finish down to its first shine. Now I've done some initial work here just to see how this is going to go, and you end up with kind of two different levels here. You start out with this one, which is, like I said, that 3D printed, sandblasted look. Then once you get that off, you have a very rough finish there. You end up with this polished look, which is still going to need quite a bit of refining, but I think I can get this down. I'm just basically going to go over everything external here with the brush first. If I can't get to the brush, I have basically the same sort of tools but on my rotary tool, and so I think with all of those I can get these down to that first coarse finish, then polish it down a little bit more, and then worry about trying to get that brush look that I'm going for. All of it just trying to keep it in the direction that I'm going to want that brush look to go. So let's get this started. So I think I'm just about done prepping these, and
They turned out pretty good. They are shiny now, which was my main goal, was to make them look like metal from afar, not like dull pieces of plastic. And so I do think I accomplished that goal. Now, did I get that brushed aluminum look I was looking for? No, not really. I tried a lot of different techniques. I tried sandpaper. I tried using bench grinder in different ways. Tried some things with the Dremel. Nothing really gave me that brushed aluminum. Best I got was scratched up aluminum. I did find it was difficult, of course, to keep the texture moving in exactly parallel lines. Otherwise, it just looked like it was kind of scratched up. So ultimately, I ended up sanding back down pretty much everything that I had worked on because I did think it just looked better smooth than any other way that I was finishing them. So I think also the 3D printing process, unless you have really the proper tools to finish the metal, I think they're just not going to turn out like, they're not going to look machined, let's put it that way. They're not going to look like machined parts, they're just going to look like 3D printed parts. So the more elbow grease you put into them, the smoother they're going to get. I did use some sandpaper on these. I did, of course, like I said, use the grinder, use the rotary tool. Everything turned out pretty good. I'm happy enough with these. They do look like they were built in a shop. They do look like they are tools, which is what they would have been if Tony would have built them for prototyping. So I'm okay with these. So what I need to do now, the inside of these, aluminum. Aluminum conducts electricity very well. So if I put my electronics in here, there's a very, very good chance that at some point the wrong things will touch together and they will short out. So what I need to do is put an insulator inside of here. Now, if you wanted to do the quick and dirty method, you could very easily just wrap your parts in plastic, wrap them in electrical tape, and then put them in here, and that will pretty much insulate them from the chassis. But what I want to do is I actually have some of this Flexi Dip, and it is a rubberized coating that you can spray paint. So what I need to do, I'm going to mask these off really well. I need to make sure that I mask off all of the threads. I need to make sure that I also mask off the tiny holes that I'm going to have to screws into, and that will then keep everything functioning properly, and there'll just be that mask on everything else. Now, I did spray these off really well with my IPA solution, let them dry thoroughly, so they should be receptive now to taking a paint. And since I didn't do any sanding or anything like that on the inside, it is still that rough, freshly printed coating, and it should hold that Flexi Dip pretty well. I've got some gray here. It also comes in black, so if I run out of this, you may see me switch to black. But let me get this all masked off, and we'll get to spray paint.
Okay, the paint job's all done. I've got the rubberized coating on the inside. I've put at least 2 coats on the inside of these to ensure that we have no conductivity on the inside of this metal, because I don't want to short anything out. But we're not going to leave everything to chance. We're actually going to do some testing on this to make sure that that rubberized coating did exactly what I expected it to do. So I have my multimeter here. I'm going to cut it on, turn it on tone. What that does is when I take these 2 leads, connect them together, if there's continuity between them, if there's electrical charge between them, then I get a tone on here telling me so. And if there's not, then I don't get any sound. I'll demonstrate. All right, so it's turned on now. And you'll hear this if I connect them together. I get a long beep. I also get a light on here. But so what I'm going to do then, if I touch this to the outside, you'll hear that continuity. Meaning, obviously, aluminum conducts electricity very well, and you hear it on the outside. So what I'm going to do now is now touch it to the inside and see if there's any 2 components that are conducting electricity. So I'll just take 2 points on the bottom, for example, and I don't get any tone, meaning there's no conductivity between there. I'll take 2 points on the wall. Again, no tone, so this one has good coating. Do the same thing on this one. Take 2 points on the bottom. No conductivity. Take 2 points on the wall. No conductivity. So, worked exactly like I hoped it would. These should be electrically safe now to put components into. Time to take these old ones, printed out of plastic, great cosplay components. Turn them into something awesome, turning them into metal components. Thanks to our good friends at PCBWay for providing these again. Keep going. All right, so one thing I thought of after I started assembling this was that these two lenses are now dirtied up from paint, and these are the ones I cut by hand, and they are not as round as they possibly could be. Obviously, for cosplay purposes, you'd never notice, but here we are. So, can we cut this mostly opaque acrylic to actually make it perfectly round and match the quality of these all metal parts? Well, that's what I'm gonna find out. Let's get out the laser cutter, figure out exactly what size we need these to be, and get these cut. So after a lot of passes, it looks like I have what I'm looking for. Now I had to go up to 45.3 width to compensate for about that 0.5 millimeter melting, burning that you get on these. But I think this is gonna be pretty good. I haven't taken the covering off of it. I do wanna see if this fits in here, and it looks like it's going to fit really well. So let's go ahead and get the cover off and see if it fits. I think I may have cut through it too long. It looks like the bottom side of it has kind of the scoring on it. But overall, looks pretty good. Let's take a look. That is one side. That's the other side. Like I said, a little bit of the scoring, melting, burning. So we're gonna put that side down. If we need to sand this, just to clean it up, we can. That fits just about perfect. Check that out. That looks fantastic. I don't really mind the scoring a whole lot either, because, I mean, after all, it would be shoving a repulsor through it. Let's see what it looks like with the lights on. There we go. That looks fantastic. Good amount of filtering on there. We can also figure out if we want to increase the brightness, because these things aren't even up hardly at all. So for cosplay purposes, I turn them up quite a bit. I'm happy with those. I guess I just need to cut one more for the other repulsor. Then we can take a look at what I have in the heads-up display. All right, here I am at the bench, and the repulsors are done and ready for my virtual flight. So let me show you what I've done to the heads-up display to prepare for pretty much the entire suit of armor, and how I'm going to monitor all of these wireless devices. So first of all, I'm going to bring up my HUD here on the screen. And you'll see it as it comes up here. The first thing you're going to see is that it pops up a full view of my armor with the components of the armor that are already registered in green. So obviously when it first comes up, the only thing you can see is the helmet itself, because that's the only thing talking. But as I turn these on, you'll see them actually pop up as they're registered with the armor. So check this out. I'm going to do this hand, and they are registered as different hands. And so as they turn on, as you can see, this is the right hand. It turns on, it's green. Green here means that both the temperature is good on the device as well as the voltage is good on the device. And you see it stays on, everything stays working exactly like it's supposed to. Let's go and turn on the other hand, which if it's where I left it, it has a low battery. So let's check that out. going to turn it on. Had a slight disconnect there on the right hand. Don't know what that was about, but you see it pop up, it went to red. Now, as this one comes on, you'll see this one is in yellow or orange, whatever you want to call it, mode, which means that there's a warning condition on here of either low battery or over temperature. Later I'll work in there how you can tell the difference. But right now, all I notice is there's something wrong with my left hand and I need to take a look at it. But you'll see, if I plug this in, I know at this point it's low battery, but if I plug this in, battery goes good, hand turns green again. Everything is fine. Now if I'm wearing it, battery starts to go low. I can simulate by unplugging it. You see it pops up on the screen notifying me that I now have a low battery and it's something I need to take a look at. So you can see it stays there in the bottom left or right, depending on how you're viewing this, corner of the screen, and it always gives you an idea of how all of your components are doing. Is there a warning or an error condition that you need to take a look at? And so, you know, you're not caught off guard by a part of your armor dying or going into low battery mode. And I'll show you what happens if I turn off one so it loses connection altogether. You'll see that the computer knows about it after just a few seconds. It goes into red mode. So now I know that there was a part of my armor that was connected, but now it's not. So there we go. That is the heads-up display now. We have this amazing motion graphic that J6 has worked out for that armor podium, and it's straight from the movies. I can show you a little clip here.
I'm the best.
But his animation is just fantastic. It adds a little bit of life to the heads-up display that I think was kind of missing because there's nothing else like actively moving on the display except for, like, you know, your readings and your other things that are on the HUD. But I just really like how that looks. Like I said, it just really brings it to life. That's it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed the whole process of bringing these aluminum, fully metal repulsors to life. I think that it really does add an extra layer of realism to them. You can get with paint, but it's going to be the very expensive paint, or maybe just a little bit more skilled with paint than I currently am right now. Anyway, again, thank you to PCBWay for providing these parts. It's been fantastic to work with them on these. If you want to know where you can order these yourself, you can find the link to that in the description. My models have been uploaded directly to PCBWay so that you can order them directly through the website. Say you don't want aluminum, you can actually order them in any number of plastics that they offer through their 3D printing service. So, like I said, go ahead and take a look. All the models are there. Again, thank you to PCBWay, and I'm going to have another video on this Iron Man build very, very soon. I think the next one is another repulsor build, and if you wonder what's left to do, stay tuned. You'll see that in the next video. I'm Chris, this is KRISU Fabrications, and I will see you next time. Take care of each other.